Good morning, children. Today we are going to start the new chapter in history through the eyes of travelers. The accounts of the travelers provide us with some aspect of social life of the people. This chapter discusses how these travel accounts enriched our understanding of the past. The accounts of travelers are helpful in reconstructing the history of India from 10th to 17th century. Most of the travelers came from vastly different social and cultural environment. Hence, they were more attentive to everyday activities and practices. These were taken for granted by indigenous writers. Their difference in perspective makes their accounts interesting. Their accounts deal with the affairs of the court, religious issues, architectural features, and monuments. Children, in this chapter, we are going to know the history of our past through Al-Biruni, Batuta, and Banya. I'm going to start with Al-Biruni. He was born in 973 in Khwarizm, which was an important center of learning, and he received the best education available at that time. He was well versed in several languages like Syriac, Arabic, Persian, Hebrew, and Sanskrit. Although he did not know Greek, he was familiar with the works of Plato and other Greek philosophers, having read them in Arabic translation. In 1017, when Sultan Mahmud invaded Khwarizm, he took several scholars and poets back to his capital Ghazni, and Al-Biruni was one of them. He arrived in Ghazni as a hostage, but gradually developed a liking for the city, where he spent the rest of his life until his death at the age of 70. It was in Ghazni that Al-Biruni developed an interest in India. This was not unusual. Sanskrit works on astronomy, mathematics, and medicine had been translated into Arabic from the 8th century onwards. When Punjab became a part of Ghazni Empire, the context with the local population helped to create an environment of mutual trust and understanding. While living in India, he studied Sanskrit language, Indian philosophy, and astrology. He traveled widely in Punjab and parts of northern India and spent several years in the company of Brahmana priests and scholars. Being well versed in a number of languages, Al-Biruni could compare languages and translate texts successfully. The Brahmin scholars respected him so much that they called him Vidyasagar, or the sea of knowledge. Children, now we are going to know about his book Kitabul Hind. By the time Al-Biruni started his writing work, travel literature had already become an accepted part of Arabic literature. This travel dealt with lands as far as the Sahara Desert in the west to the river Volga in the north. His book Kitabul Hind was written in Arabic and is very simple and lucid. The book is being divided into 80 chapters on subjects such as religion and philosophy, festivals, astronomy, manners and customs, social life, weights and measures, laws and metrology, etc. Generally, Al-Biruni adopted a distinctive structure in each chapter, beginning with a question, following this up with a description based on Sanskritic traditions, and concluding with a comparison with other cultures. Some present-day scholars have argued that this almost is based on geometric structure. Al-Biruni, who wrote in Arabic, probably intended his work for people living along the frontiers of the subcontinent. He was familiar with the translation and adaptation of Sanskrit, Pali, and Prakrit texts into Arabic. These ranged from fables to works on astronomy and medicine. However, he was also critical about the ways in which these texts were written and clearly wanted to improve them. Hindu, the term he said, has been derived from the Old Persian word used NC 6th, 5th century BCE to refer to the region east of the river Sindhu. The Arabs continued the Persian usage and called this region Al-Hind and its people Hindi. Later, the Turks referred to the people east of the Indus as Hindu, their land as Hindustan, and their language as Hindi. None of these expressions indicated the religious identity of the people. It was much later that the term developed religious connotation. Now we are going to start with the problem faced by Al-Biruni in writing an account of India. Al-Biruni was aware of the problems in understanding an aligned world. He discussed several barriers that obstructed the understanding of Indian society. Al-Biruni described Sanskrit as follows: if you want to conquer this difficulty, that is to learn Sanskrit, you will not find it easy because the language is of an enormous range, both in words and inflections. Something like the Arabic, calling one and the same thing by various names, both original and derivative. The using one and the same word for a variety of subjects, which in order to be properly understood must be distinguished from each other by various qualifying epithets. The second barrier he identified was a difference in the religious beliefs and practices of the Indian people. The self-absorption and consequent insularity of the local population, according to him, constituted the third barrier. What is interesting is that even though he was aware of these problems, Al-Biruni depended almost on the works of Brahmanas, often citing passages from the Vedas, the Puranas, the Bhagavad Gita, the works of Patanjali, the Manusmriti, etc., to provide an understanding of the Indian society. Now, children, we are going to know Al-Biruni's description of caste system. The system of Varna described by Al-Biruni. He said, the highest caste are the Brahmanas, of whom the books of the Hindus tell us that they were created from the head of Brahmin. And as the Brahmin is only another name for the force called nature, and the head is the highest part of the body, the Brahmana are the choice part of the whole genus. Therefore, the Hindus consider them as the very best of mankind. The next caste are the Kshatriya, who were created, as they say, from the shoulders and hands of Brahmin. Their degree is not much below that of the Brahmana. After them follow the Vaishyas, who were created from the thigh of Brahmin, the Shudra, who were created from his feet. Between the latter, the two classes, there is no very great distance. Much, however, as these classes differ from each other, they live together in the same towns and villages, mixed together in the same houses and lodgings. Al-Biruni's description of the caste system. Al-Biruni tried to explain the caste system by looking for parallels in other societies. He noted that in ancient Persia, 4 social categories were recognized: those of knights and princes, monks, fire priests and lawyers, physicians, astronomers and other scientists, and finally peasants and artisans. In other words, he attempted to suggest that social divisions were not unique to India. At the same time, he pointed out that within Islam, all men were considered equal, differing only on their observance of piety, in spite of acceptance of the Brahmical description of the caste system. Al-Biruni disapproved the notion of pollution. He remarked that everything which falls into a state of impurity strives and succeeds in regaining its original condition of purity. The sun cleans the air, and the salt in the sea prevents the water from becoming polluted. If it were not so, instead, Al-Biruni life on earth would have been impossible. The conception of social pollution intrinsic to the caste system was, according to him, contrary to the laws of nature. He remarked that everything which falls into a state of impurity strives and succeeds in regaining its original condition of purity. So, again, we are going to peep into the main points of Al-Biruni's on caste system. He said social divisions were not unique in India. All men were considered equal in Islam, accepted the Brahmical description of the caste system, disapproved the notion of the pollution. That's all. We will take Ibn Battuta in the second topic.